Good day everyone. Today, our group will be performing a dissection of a pig's kidney. This activity will help us understand the structure and function of the kidney, one of the body's most vital organs responsible for filtering blood, maintaining fluid balance, and removing wastes through urine formation. The pig's kidney is similar to the human kidney in both structure and function, which makes it an ideal specimen for learning renal anatomy.
So what does our kidney do? Their main job is to cleanse the blood of toxin, waste products, and excess fluids to transform them into urine.
Again, my name is Al.
My name is Paula. My name is Ella. My name is Nicola.
My name is NHEL.
My name is Jake.
Let us examine the external anatomy of a pig's kidney. This pig's kidney is roughly about 5 inches long, 2.5 inches wide, and a half-inch thick. It is roughly the size of a large fist. Kidneys are bean-shaped organs that come in pairs. A kidney is a reddish-brown bean-shaped organ with both convex and concave borders. For the superficial parts, the kidney is composed of 3 protective layers, namely the superficial and collagenous renal fascia. Its function is to anchor kidney and adrenal gland. Then, we have the perirenal fat, the middle layer that cushions kidney against blows. And, lastly, renal or fibrous capsule, which has a smooth and glistening appearance. And this layer encloses the kidney and is mostly composed of collagen and elastin, hence can also be called fibrous capsule.
Let us locate the renal artery, which is found near the renal vein. The renal artery is where blood enters the kidney. Now, let us locate the renal vein. This vein is where blood exits the kidney. You can differentiate them by its wall thickness. The renal artery has a thicker wall than the renal vein.
In this frontal section of the kidney, there are 3 main regions that can be seen. First, we have the renal cortex, which is the outer region of the kidney. It is the space for blood vessels that connect the nephrons, which are the functional and structural units of the kidney that begin in the cortex and mostly located deep within the renal medulla. The nephron is composed of the renal corpuscle, which is responsible for the filtration of the plasma. This is where the glomerulus and the Bowman's capsule located. This darker region is the renal medulla. It is the innermost part of the kidney, and its main function is to regulate concentration of the urine. You can also notice pyramid-like tissues in the renal medulla. This is called the renal pyramids. These pyramids made up of collecting ducts that transport urine from the kidney tubules of the nephrons in the renal cortex to the cup-shaped cavities or calyxes, where it is collected before passing through the ureter and the bladder.
This is the renal pelvis. It is a flat funnel-shaped tube that is continuous with the urethra, leaving the hilum. The extensions of the pelvis, this right here, is called the calyces. It forms cup-shaped drains that collect urine, which continuously drains from the tips of the pyramids and into the pelvis when urine passes out through the ureter to the bladder. That is the urethra.
Unfiltered blood enters the kidney through the renal arteries found in the hilum region. It then branches off into the segmental arteries, and then it will run along spaces between the renal pyramids, known as the renal columns. These blood vessels are known as the interlobar arteries, after which it will split off into the top of the base of the renal pyramids, known as the arcuate arteries. It will further branch off into the renal cortex as interlobular arteries or cortical radiate arteries. These blood vessels serve multiple nephrons where filtration of the blood occurs specifically in the glomerulus. Blood is supplied to the glomerulus via the afferent arterioles. Once the waste or filtered blood exits through the afferent arterioles, it then diverges into the peritubular capillaries, which supplies blood to the proximal and distal covulated tubules and the connecting duct, and into the vasa recta, which supplies blood to the loop of Henle, and it will converge again in the cortical radiate veins or the interlobular veins. Then it will pass through the arcuate veins at the base of the pyramid. This leads the blood back to the renal columns in the interlobular veins, which then goes to the renal veins in the hilum region before sending the now filtered blood to the inferior vena cava of the heart.
For the formation of urine, we identify three processes. First, we have the glomerular filtration, which happens in the renal cortex. The origin of filtrate comes from water and smaller solutes forced through the capillary walls, the blood vessels, and glomerular capsule, or the pseudorenal tubule. Then, second, during tubular absorption, which happens to the moment when the filter from the Bowman's capsule enters a proximal convoluted tubule. This happens again in the renal cortex. Useful substances in this filtrate are transported out into the tubule cells and then returned to the bloodstream to the adjacent capillaries. Majority of water absorption happens in the proximal convoluted tubule of the cortex. Lastly, during tubular secretion, hydrogen and potassium ions, creatinine, and drugs are further removed from peritubular blood executed by the tubule cells into the filtrate. These secreted ions plus the filtrate form the urine. The urine then flows out of the neck from tubule into the collecting duct, then passing through the renal pelvis and to the ureter, and then down to the urinary bladder. So that concludes of the pathway of filtering that becomes a urine.